There are different occult traditions that use the cross that actually predate Christianity. The cross represents opposition. You know, a criminal was hung on the cross in the period of time when Jesus was hung on the cross. Normally, the average criminal was not hung on a cross. He was just hung on a beam. Or an X is another one. But the cross was symbolic of opposition. So a criminal that opposed the common good or the common authority, that he was hung on a cross. That's why Jesus was hung on a cross, was because he was being executed as a dissenter. So the opposition is what a cross symbolizes, not death, as people like to think it means. Now there's a deeper symbolism of the cross than just opposition. So you could look at the cross in several different ways. You could look at it as the lateral being evil or earthly plane. That would be a gnostic way of looking at it. In the upright beam, the horizontal beam being representative of holy light, the spiritual plane, because it was a dualistic way of looking at things. If heaven was good, earth was evil. There was no spiritual plane that had devils. The devils were earthly. They were earthly beings. So there's only two planes. Now we've come up with this idea that that there are two poles. Again, there are both a dual pole system, right? That's spiritual, one pole, and material, the other pole. But in that sense, they combine this two poles being the devil being the polar opposite on the same polar plane as God. So the horizontal being God. Less God. You get to the middle, and that's man. Down, lower than that, and that's the devil at the bottom. So an inverted cross would be representative of the devil. But and then the cross beam, of course, would be the material planes. One side, the right side being life, the left side being death, which is where we get the left-hand path from. The original idea of spiritual planes versus material planes does not have a distinction between the righteous aspects of God and the devil, because they were two opposite beings. They belonged to two different planes. The devil was on the material plane of existence. God was all that was spiritual. Therefore, all that was spiritual had to be good, had to be supreme good. And this whole material existence was not a creation of God. It was a defection from God, where God, the aspect of God's light at the crossroads met the material world, and brought it to life. And so we have some good and some evil, like a little balance of that in that plane. But that spirituality generally focused on separating oneself from the material world, transcending that plane of existence, transcending it and ascending to the all, or the spiritual. This is not the all as in everything, including which matter. It was the all as in all that mattered. The material world without God was just darkness. It was just lack. It was a void. But the light, the energy of God came into it, and it became what we now know as material world, and animation, our consciousness, our sense of self, even as being a self apart from God. So Gnostic traditions viewed the cross a little bit differently than the common Christian, Judaeo-Cristian construct of the cosmos, the relationship between God and man. So, Gnostics were very much, they did believe in polarity, in the sense that, pain was just a degree of pleasure, like either a lesser degree of pleasure or just pleasure to the extreme of it being painful. And life was just less death, less extreme of death, or death was just a less extreme of life, or a more extreme of life. Could go either way. Different. So you allowed for two different ways of looking at it, two different perspectives of that. But when it came to spiritual planes, generally Gnosticism regarded all things spiritual as being the polar opposite of the material. So there could be no devil on the spiritual plane. So you have, it's really hard, and there was no life on the material plane. Life does not belong here. It belongs to the all. It belongs to the spiritual. So that's where in the Gnostic tradition, the satanic cross would not be an inverted cross. It would be a cross on its side. It would be the cross that's being carried, actually. That would be a satanic cross.
Start with honor. It's my day, and we start when I say we start.
But we can go into that further in the sense that who is the devil and who is Satan? Because people seem to have forgotten that those are two different aspects. In this sense that the devil is the material world without God. That's the material plane without God. That's the Gnostic sense. And then Only at the crossroads, at the center of the cross, is Satan. That's when, that's the merging. That would be us. We are Satan. Animation, life itself is Satan. Is the product of Satan. Satan is the meeting place of spirit and matter. It's where life comes into this world. And Lucifer was the lure in that sense. Lucifer, in that sense, was what attracted, actually, what attracted the light to come into man, and or come into matter, to be, and so that is what is significant in that sense about the Lucifer then leading to the fall, tempting to the fall of man, because without Lucifer, the light would have never traveled down to matter. Lucifer seen his reflection in the void, and it became, it was so beautiful that the aspects of the all that manifested as Lucifer came down and impregnated the void, and here we are as a result of that. So at that point, when Lucifer pierced the veil, so to speak, that is when Lucifer became Satan. And the devil and Satan are two different creatures. The devil is just the void. In Hinduism, we would call that Shiva. In physics, we'd call that dark matter. But now in the contemporary, not to look at it, now to go back to contemporary Judaeo-Cristian concepts, how it's popularly perceived these days is that Satan is still at the crossroads. He's still apart from the devil, right? So that's the one thing that stays the same. Satan is at the crossroads. It just means opposition. So that is, Satan is the war between good and evil, or spiritual and, in the sense, Judeo-Christian sense, it would be good and evil, yes. Gnosticism has this idea of good and evil, but it's not in the same way we look at it. We look at it as the good aspects of this world and the bad aspects, but there's no good aspects of the material world in Gnosticism. The material world is the devil. And we are trapped in the devil, basically. We're trying to escape that in Gnosticism. In Judeo-Christian sense, which evolved basically from Gnosticism, they changed it up a little bit to where now the kingdom of God is within us, and it thus redeems the devil in that sense, the devil that we are, the devil that is our shell. But whether that is actually a teaching that Jesus taught, I do not think so. I don't think that the shell was ever redeemed, because it says in the Bible, and St. Paul says all the time, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. You must forsake your flesh and be of the Spirit to come into the kingdom of God. But I'm not here to quibble about theology, because honestly, it's not that important. This theology is symbolic of really what is going on around you. Like, it's not as sentient as we think. The spirit, the all is not as sentient, any more sentient than we allow it to be. Its sentience evolves with us, because we measure our consciousness is the measure of the all. And ultimately, the cross is a sacred object, because without the devil and without God, apart from that, the life and death plane is not conscious. Not sentience is the crossroads. So that's another thing you could say. It symbolizes sentience. And because you have life and death, that's just a cycle. Life, death, life, death, life, death. Just as the heavenly cycle, that's the cycle of I am that I am. I am that I am. That's two spherical planes of existence. They or not, well, together they make a spherical plane of existence, but apart it's just a circular route of just a direction that loops around as a ring, and it goes that way, like that. Is life and death. The infinity is life and death, and the infinity of God and devil. So that it's really symbolic of who we are, honestly, because we're looking at the universe through the lens of our experience, So all religion is going to reflect that, That is really, that's the importance of theology. That we miss the point. We focus on the theology when really the theology is a reflection of man. Just as, like, in the sense of gnostic traditions, Lucifer saw his reflection in the flux and grew envious of it, because he seen how beautiful it was, and it was like, it will replace me in the eyes of God. So also we cannot grow envious of the theology and try to corrupt it with our with our making it about our us, making it about our ego, attaching our ego to our theology. Theology is just reflection of what's in here. Ego is how we express what's in here. theology is how we reflect on what's in here. So, yeah. So, in the Christian sense, Satan would be good, evil, life, and death. The cross, all four crossroads. So that's, but in the Gnostic sense, it's a duality, and they're both right in a sense. It's just two ways of looking at it. One is the most simplistic way of looking at it. You factor all of existence down to the two extremes, or you can add a level of complexity to that and make it four extremes. And you can even more complex, add another complexity to that and make it 8 extremes, and that's when you got the chaos cross, the crossroads of chaos. That's when you have when you can see things with 8 perspectives. You go from duality to quasi-reality to chaos theory. So that's the symbolism of crosses right there. I mean that's just not the whole. There's symbolism of crosses. I could go and fractalize on it and fucking take you on a wild trip of symbology and whatnot. But that is what I've come to know of the occult symbolisms that come with the cross and our understanding of it. The cross is not a symbol that comes from Christianity. Christianity used a symbol that already existed and built on it, And they would have done that, I believe, whether or not Jesus was crucified on a cross or not. That was a convenient coincidence that Jesus Christ, the sigma that they chose to put on the introverted sigma that they chose to put on the cross, on their cross, I should say, as a symbol of their movement to inspire people to get behind it, their movement, their philosophy, that whether he was crucified on a cross or not, the cross would have found its way into Christianity because it's such a deep and meaningful symbol. Every culture and religion, especially religion, their esoteric and their symbolic lore uses the cross in one way or another. So I hope you find this video educational, and I hope you like and subscribe, and I will continue to upload. You guys have been great to me. This has been a great week. I've really kind of kicked off this last week, and I have gotten better at the content. I was kind of sloppy at first, and I'm still kind of sloppy. It's definitely room for improvement. I'm still improving. But you guys give me the motivation by all your likes, subscriptions and views to keep on doing this. I don't a little more about myself, so you guys can kind of get an understanding of why I do this. I am extremely monotropic, in the sense that I obsess over things to a complexity that is not apparent to the casual observer because I'm an introverted monotrope. So my complexity is depth. It's not existential. I dig deep. I dig deep to reflect on what's out there, you know. So I really see things through the lens of the state of the human state as, you know, I see the human state to be like as I am, because honestly I can't speak for anyone but myself. So I know there's a lot of monotropic people out there that are like they may not even know they're monotropic. They may not even know what that word means. But I know that if I continue the dialogue, which helps me, because to see something through, it really helps me to see a thought through to its end, so I can focus on something new interest. If I put it out, if I spew it out, you know. If it stays in my head, it's just a continual retching, and I can't really get past it. I can, but it's if I just spew it out. Even though a lot of times to just get it out of my head, and so I can focus on something else, I will spew it out to no one. I'll be talking to myself, and so, and you know, when I'm recluse in my room or whatever, just lock myself in the bathroom, run the water, and just look myself in the mirror and just talk, just let the dialogue flow. And I figure, you know, if it's helping me, well, what if an extroverted monotrope, could it help them, you know, to hear me, you know? So that's kind of what my hope is, and by no means do I agree with everything that I post on this channel, or even everything that comes out of my mouth, honestly, because I am a work in progress, and I believe it's the journey, it's the progress, not the message that matters. As we come to new conclusions and our conclusions evolve, I think the old ideas shouldn't be just discounted as fiction and no longer relevant. They were the journey, and that's what tells the story of enlightenment. Because it's all about enlightenment, then you lose the connectivity with it. We aren't connected to the enlightenment, to the truth, if we separate it from the journey. You know, the world was once flat, now it's round. We wouldn't have got there if it hadn't been flat first. So, love y'all.